3 long days, some I don't know. It takes a little more than what you show, and that's yesterday. Yeah, yesterday.
Welcome to Bobby Finn Knows Everyone. We are part of the Pull Tab Sports Network. Live today at Wild Bills down at the Girls State Hockey Tournament. And along with me, my co-host as usual, Tom Lord. How are you, Tom?
Doing well. Thanks for asking. I feel special that you asked me how I'm doing.
You didn't say thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me today, Bobby.
That's what he always says every time. Also with us today, a special guest, Annie Cashman. How are you, Annie?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Who's this Annie Cashman? I want to know.
She is the Stillwater girls high school hockey coach.
So I have the distinct pleasure of coaching Bobby's daughter for 25 games a season and about 20 weeks out of the year. So,
Well,
Should we get into it? Just distinct pleasure?
I was going to say
or,
half the game she's not by you. She's across the ice sitting down.
Hey, we're working on that. I
Yeah.
feel like she's come a long way since the beginning of the season in that area. She was
yeah.
drawing penalties by the end of the year.
Well, that's good. That's what we want her to do,
She
right?
can't remember which game it was. Was it Edina or Andover? I think she drew 3 or 4 right in a row, and she came to the bench. And I was like, it's much better to do that than to be the one over there.
The one picture, she got murdered by Sauer.
Sauer.
Yes. Oh, my God. Her helmet almost flew off. She got destroyed. And, hey, play the game.
She took it? She didn't take,
Oh, yeah.
she didn't
Took it,
take
no.
get a retaliation?
No,
Nothing like that?
no. She took it for sure.
And Annie, what were you doing on the bench after she got hit? Just like, don't do it, Annie. Don't do it.
No, I
Don't do
mean,
it, Annie.
no, I had zero problems with any of it most of the time. I mean, every team wants a player like that.
Yeah.
And they're jealous when they don't have someone who can mix it up a little bit and backs it up on the ice. It's one thing if you're out there taking penalties and you don't add anything to the other side of the score sheet, but
Sure.
she does both. And we have a couple players that do both. So I mean, I was actually talking to a college coach a couple weeks ago, and I was like, in girls hockey, they're so hard on any player that doesn't fit a cookie cutter mold. In guys hockey, it's like, that's the kid you want on your team. And that's everyone talks about that, right? So I have a couple of them, and I wouldn't trade them for anyone.
Yeah.
You also have girls that don't sally as much as boys do. We were talking about that with Winnie Broat about like, hey, let loose, enjoy the game, have fun, get after it.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because like, again, it kind of goes back to that etiquette part of it. And girls hockey kind of sometimes has a country club culture.
Yeah.
It's weird. I think it has a lot to do with the economics and the people who actually can afford to play girls hockey and what they're doing. And so it's sometimes a little more prim and proper than boys. I'm all for it. I just tell the girls, just don't show up your opponent. Don't give your opponent a reason to want to put you through the glass.
Yeah.
So do what you got to do. But, so the other thing, it's also, if you score and you just line up right to the face off, it's also a mentality like, oh crap, these guys they're not done. They're coming back for more. So I'm fine with both.
I want to see that Sally where someone scores and they all skate as fast as they can back to the center
So
face
I tried-
and just go, let's go.
I tried talking us into it, and the girls were like, you're crazy. It was
That
like
would
right
be
when I
awesome.
started, and I was like, don't you think it'd be such a shock to like just score and just not even go through the line and just be like, all right, let's
Yep.
go.
Yep.
And they're like, no, we want to sell you. We want to go through the line. I was like, all right, well, I think it would be way more fun if you just did that.
It'd be intimidating.
Yeah.
For sure intimidating. Like, oh, shit. They want more.
And the other thing is because they say, like, what is it? The first, all these stupid hockey sayings. Oh, the first 30 seconds is the next time. And it's like, well, if you just go right to the line and the other team's like, and especially if you're the home team, they have to put someone out in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So you don't even get a chance to react to what happened, right? And so I've tried to get the girls on board. So maybe next year, maybe my second year, we'll start.
You
doing
don't
it.
do this, Sally. You're sitting. You're done.
Yeah, there's a thought.
That's good. You guys had a successful season.
We did.
Yeah, you're
Or-
good squad.
Good squad, great kids, a lot of fun. I think our team is. I tell them all the time, I think we were the best dressed hockey team in the state high school league as far as our warm-ups and what we looked like. And then I also think we were the most fun hockey team. We played in a tournament over the holidays against Breck in the Breck tournament. And Breck's families were all staffing the tournament. And we played the last game of the day, the first day. And it was 2 days after Christmas. And we show up and the place was quiet because I think it was Blake and Gentry playing, or Gentry and someone, and there just weren't a lot of fans. And we showed up and like the whole place just had a bunch of energy all of a sudden. And lady came up to me and she goes, I got to be honest, that looks like the most fun hockey team ever. And I said, they are really fun. Yeah. So we laugh a lot and we have a good time. And then, as far as the wins and losses, I think, I set a goal for us to be at 20 wins. We were 2 wins shy of that. So that was kind of a bummer and ran into a buzzsaw on Gentry in the section semifinal. But all in all, a really good year. And I think next year we return almost all of our scoring except for a couple kids and our goalie, which is huge. So the future's bright.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. And then Gentry, obviously, they have a really good chance to win it all, right? I mean, they are polished, and it's tough to have those kind of teams in your section. But you know what? You want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like everyone, that's been a common theme amongst the girls hockey coaches is like, well, how do you even this out, or how do you make it better? And it's like, that's been the history of high school sports since the beginning. You want geographical representation. You want the Moorheads in it. You want someone from down south in it, and that's what's going to grow the game. It's unfortunate that Section 4 AA seems to have been so strong the last 2 or 3 years, where anyone could kind of win it. But also that just means that you've better be ready to show up to your section. And if you get through your section, you're going to have a really good chance to win the whole thing. So
that's a really good point. You get those young teams coming out to watch and seeing what it's all about. And
yeah. So when I was at Stillwater, I graduated from college, and then I was the U12A coach. It's my second team. My first team, I was a U15 coach, and then I jumped down to take the head coach of the U12 team. And I tell our girls this all the time because they don't believe me. It was the best U12 team in the history of Stillwater. It wasn't my kids' this U12 team, and they get a little salty when I hear that. But
because they won it all, right?
We took third. We actually lost to Sammy Kauger when she was playing for Edina.
Oh.
I tell her all the time she stole my kids' hearts, ripped them right out. I think she had all the goals in the game. But anyway, we were like 45-5.
Wow.
And lost in the state semifinal to Edina, and actually Edina lost White Bear, which was Hannah Brandt, who played on the Olympic team.
Yeah.
But we beat White Bear 8-1 in the District 2 championship to go to state. So if we went to choked against Edina, I think we would have. And my assistant, Allie O'Brien, was on that U12 team.
Oh, that's
but anyway, back to my point, the best game I ever saw in girls high school hockey was when Chelsea Jones was playing for Stillwater. She was the captain, and Allie Thunstrom and Caitlin Hogan played for North St. Paul, and the Section 4 AA championship was at Stillwater.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
So it was a packed house. The North team was on one side, and the Stillwater families were on one, and they had to shut off attendance. So they had to close attendance, and the place was just rocking. And Stillwater won in overtime. And my whole U12 team was there. And I just remember them, like that was the coolest memory for them to see Chelsea Jones scoring overtime, who was their hero at their home rink.
It was a dream, right?
It was a dream, right?
Yeah.
And actually, and then it was kind of a letdown. You go to the state tournament, and all those same people were there, and they took up like one section at the X. So,
right.
So do you think it should be at Ritter or Mariucci?
Yeah, I get it for representation of girls hockey. So when I was the high school coach up in North Dakota, the whole thing was at the Ralph. So the boys tournament was at the Ralph. The girls tournament was all the same weekend. Everyone bussed in and took over at Grand Forks. It was a huge, huge party for the parents. They had a good time. And the kids, us and the boys teams were all somewhere. And it was a big party and a lot of fun. And it was really fun for the girls to see where the boys got to have the same representation of the boys team. But Ingolstadt is only 10,000 seats. And so you can put 3,000 or 4,000 people in Ingolstadt. And the way they did it was the girls championship was at 5 and the boys was at 7 or 7:30. So you had basically that lower bowl because usually a Grand Forks boys team was in it.
Right.
So you had the whole town of Grand Forks there by the second period of my game, and the place was packed. So when we won the state championship, it was a very full feeling arena. I mean, it's probably half full, but it didn't feel that way. Where you're never going to get.
You're not going to get it.
You're never going to get 15,000 people to watch a girls'
not.
hockey game. You're not going to get 10,000 people.
Don't you think some people would complain like, "Oh, the boys get to play at the X, the girls"?
Well, they did. That's why it's there. But
it's not the right venue for that.
I don't think so.
It's more fun to play in front of a crowd.
Well, right. And I think now that, what I would love to see, at least have the conversation, and I doubt this will ever happen, but now that Mariucci's going to a NHL size arena or St. Thomas when they build theirs.
Yeah.
Those are state of the art, world class facilities. You're not going to be from a facility standpoint, you're not going to be a second rate at Mariucci or St. Thomas, where I do see Ritter is probably a step down from being at the X from a facility standpoint, but
Mariucci's not.
Mariucci's not. And the other thing I think what would be really great about having it there once you have the two is once you go into the consolation bracket, then you're still not offsite. Like you're still part of the tournament and you're just over at Ritter. So that's what we did up in North Dakota, and I loved it. So you just went to the second rink at Ingolstadt, and then you still were part of the whole mix of everything that was going on, and I thought that was awesome. It was a much better atmosphere. People, everyone got hotels and were around for the whole weekend. So that's what I, the other thing, if we're going to keep it here, I think you have to find a way to make youth programs, make it almost free. Because I think about those years I was coaching youth hockey, we made it to state, the high school team made it to state, and I was like, oh, great, we'll all go. And it was like $60. Yeah. By the time you bought your ticket, someone got some popcorn, they got a pop. It was like, and not every family can afford that. So to go tell a family you have to go to the girls' game and it's $65, $70, I think that's a huge economic challenge. And so if we're going to keep it here, I think you got to start giving booster clubs some sort of, you got to start making it, subsidizing it and telling booster clubs, okay, pay us $2,000 and your whole youth hockey association can come and then we'll at least get some fans there.
Why? So here's another angle to this. Why don't more former players, women players, get with their friends they played with on their high school teams or whatever it may be, get together and make it an event? Like the boys do.
Yeah.
A lot of guys you grew up with, you get together every year and say, hey, the tournament's coming on, let's go.
Yeah.
So why aren't the women doing that?
Because
guys can take hard-hitting questions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll take the kids if you want.
Well, you got to remember, we're still in our early stages of girls hockey, right? So the first state tournament was 1995. It's only, it's actually not that long. It's 30 years ago, but so that first, then it moved over here. And I think in the earlier years of girls high school hockey, you had the Holy Angels and you didn't have communities going as much. Everyone likes to rag on Edina, but it took Edina 20 years to win a state championship.
Wow.
They made it a lot, but they didn't win until Sammy took over 8 years ago and they won their first one. But so you really think about that's like the big youth program, but I think the also challenge with it is it's so hard to go to. And also the weekend we have it is regional weekend for boys hockey. So if you have any siblings that are still playing youth hockey, it's like, well, we'll go to this, and so it's a really weird weekend if you think about what's going on in the youth hockey associations.
Yeah, very true.
And it's hard to get there. For example, tomorrow night, I want to get to our U12 and our U15 teams are still playing. And this is going on. And I was like, well, I'm going to try to go watch the Stillwater kids if I can. And it's a really busy time for this. So I think that also plays into part of why you're not going. But I will say my kids who won, so I coached the youth teams that were the 2007 and 2009 Stillwater team. So a bunch of those girls, my assistant coach is one of those kids. They all still get together all the time.
That's awesome.
And they still, they're really prideful of Allie being the assistant coach, and they do a lot together still. They're all in each other's weddings. So I think it'll happen. And I think if we would have made it to state, they would all been there.
Yeah.
You have an interesting story about your assistant coach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to tell that?
So she was on my second team I coached. So I coached a U15 team, and then I coached a U12 team, and then I took a U15 team back. I took them up to U15 from there.
You should try coaching a little bit more. Yeah, I think you need a couple more teams to coach.
Well, this was back in when I didn't have kids, and so Allie was on that U12 team that was awesome, and really funny story. So I coached them in the fall, I can't remember what used to be up at Blaine. They used to have it's called showcase hockey or something like that. It was like a showcase team.
Oh yeah.
Before AAA took over the world.
Yep.
And they're like, well, you're going to be the U12A head coach or co-head coach, but why don't you coach them in the fall and get to know the kids? And so I walk in and there's a bunch of kids who they're very confident young girls, and they're winners. And Allie, she's this curly haired kid in the corner, and I'll never forget. She had a curly ponytail, and everyone called her Gator. She didn't say a freaking word. Didn't say a word. And
Alligator.
And so, well, you get it. Yeah. And so after a couple days, I was like, why do they call you Gator? She's like alligator. And I was like, oh, your first name's Allie. Like, I get it now. And so on that team, which was really good, there were a lot of characters. She was like the kid who did anything I asked. You know, Allie, go play defense. Okay. Allie, play right wing. Allie, play center. She never said a word. She was by far the most favorite kid I've ever coached. And I tell her that all the time. Like, she was so great. And so then took her up to U14. So that whole group jumped up. Our best defenseman on that team made the high school team as an 8th grader, who was probably the best high school defenseman at Stillwater ever, you know. Tell Addie and Josie. I tell them that all the time. But anyway, so she, in the middle of that season, her mom got diagnosed with colon cancer at 45 years old. And she's still alive now and great. But then I was 25 and I started driving Allie to practice because Ann was going through chemo and all that. And so, 20 years later, so Allie's mom is my daughter's godmother.
Wow.
And when I went to the hospital to have Nola, I actually thought her name was going to be Allie. But then she came out and she looked nothing like this curly-haired, blue-eyed, brown. I was like, you look nothing like an Allie that I thought you were going to look like. So we named her something else. Okay. But so then during COVID, Allie was bored out of her mind. She works in the financial services industry downtown. And she's like, I am so bored. What should I do? And I was like, why don't you go coach hockey? Like, why don't you do what I did when I was your age? So she started coaching in our U15 program. And then when Mira quit and took the job at St. Cloud, someone in the youth program was like, Allie, why don't you apply? And she said, no flipping way am I going to go deal with high school parents, but why don't you get Cashman out of retirement and see if she'll come back and coach high school hockey? So that was kind of, we were a package deal.
Yeah, fantastic.
So I told the athletic director, I said, I'll do it, but you have to let me pick my assistant. And, which was fine. They let you do that.
That's awesome. Great story.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a minute. Let's talk about Jimmy's salad dressings and dips. It is hockey season. We're here for the state tournament. And one thing that is great for sports is buffalo wings. And what's better with buffalo wings than Jimmy's chunky blue cheese? So everybody knows Jimmy's is great on salads, but it's also great for buffalo wings. I love buffalo chicken dip, and it's super easy. Here's my recipe. Ready? Chunk of Philadelphia cream cheese, about a cup of Jimmy's chunky blue cheese. Throw some chicken in there, bunch of Frank's Red Hot, throw it in a crock pot, and boom, it's awesome. Because Jimmy's has the big chunks of blue cheese, which is what you want. You don't even have to go buy any blue cheese chunks because it's right in the dressing. So it's awesome. Check out Jimmy's salad dressings and dips at Cub Foods and at Hy-Vee. It's a locally owned company. And like Bobby Finn always says,
don't you be messing
with my dressing. Well done. We had it down, and now
you usually start it.
I threw you. Oh, I did. Yeah, it's true. Awesome.
But no, that's so. Getting back to the hockey, obviously got a game on right now. Pretty hard to believe that South St. Paul is sticking with them. I mean, it's 1-0, but shots have to be 20 or 30 to 1 right now. But what do you like in the AA? Some big games tonight.
Some big games. Some great games. I think, so I joke. I mean, I think this is the first time in the history of girls high school hockey that Edina is a sentimental favorite.
Yeah. Finally.
Not with me. Not with me, I'll tell you that much.
It's kind of amazing that you look at the 4 and you're like, oh, I think I'd like Edina to win that. So going the first game at the 6 o'clock game, Andover's D is really tough. So they have that big first line with Gettle, Brown, and Berger. But what makes Andover special is they have 60 who can just shut you down, and they're punishing, and they play really physical. So in that first game, unless Uma just absolutely stands on her head, and she can. I mean, she's giving up less than a goal a game, and her save percentages, I believe, is over 95. So
best goalie in the history of Minnesota.
Yeah, she's the best goalie in the history of Minnesota hockey.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, she had her 100th win against us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really glad to make that happen for her.
She started as a goalie at Breck for 2 years as 7th and 8th grade. So she won 2 state championships, and then went back to where she's from in Edina, and she's started for Edina ever since she's been a freshman.
Yep. 103 wins now.
So we were we're in the record book.
Yeah, we were the 100th. we put
it's always fun. We
gave her the second 0.
Right?
Yeah.
But,
I was like, I saw it on Twitter after, and I texted Sammy, and I was like, you're welcome. No, but very classy kid. A kid you want to see succeed.
Really good kid.
So I I think it's going to be a really good game, a really well played game. I see Andover probably winning 4-2. It's going to be really hard for. I think Edina would have to score 3 or 4 goals to beat Andover to win. So we'll see.
If we're
That's
going to
not
get those
easy.
3 or 4.
Yeah, I think that's a lot. So I think Andover in the last 3 weeks since Brown has been back in their lineup, she had a broken collarbone. They've been pretty much unstoppable on that first line, and their D are just are really tough. So we'll see. I give the coaching. I think Sammy's the best coach in the state. She'll come up with something. All she does is win. So it wouldn't surprise me if Andover or if Edina knocked him off, but I think Andover's I give Andover the nod on that one.
Andover win last year? Did they win it all?
Yep.
Yeah.
Andover beat
Boys and
Minnetonka.
girls.
Yep.
All right.
And then the second one, man, is that going to be a good game? I arguably think that the way the seeding worked out, I think Gentry. Actually, I think Minnetonka got the shorter end of the stick in all of it because Oro just scored the second one. But I think Gentry probably should have been the 3 seed, and then playing Andover in the semifinal, and then Minnetonka in the late conference showdown in the semi. That's probably how it could have worked out, but it didn't. So and then Centennial probably could have been the 5th seed.
Right.
And so Minnetonka gets Centennial, who's really strong, Miss Hockey finalist in O'Hara, last night.
I think they got the most underrated player in the state too. The goalie, Kaylin Gross. She's amazing.
Right.
And she almost won that game.
Yeah, so she almost stole one from
Yes.
Minnetonka last night.
She had
And
like 50-some saves, I think.
yeah, so Lindsay scored in the first minute of the game and
Yeah.
then held it for a long time,
Right.
and then they scored one at the end of the second. And then Centennial tied it up, and then Avar scored with like a minute left.
Yeah.
But Gentry is we've seen Gentry more than anybody. Very polished. Kara Sajovic, probably the best pure goal scorer in the state. And so I think the key for Minnetonka is going to be they're going to have to get over 30 shots.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to get to that second line of defense and get their big 3D to turn and have to chase them around a little bit. If they can do that and generate 30 plus shots of offense, I think Minnetonka wins in like a 5-4 game. But I think it's going to be back and forth and in a really, really well played, high quality girls hockey game. But I think Minnetonka just has a little bit more firepower.
I think their depth is what's going to get them
Yep.
too. Like the starting 5, they're both phenomenal, both teams. But I love how polished and poised. Like I said, that those Gentry girls have been playing together for 5 years.
Yep.
And they know each other so well. There's the firepower they have, and they get it.
Yeah, and so I think the key for Minnetonka, I think Minnetonka has a slight edge, I would say, in goaltending. Not much. Lamming's been playing really well. They haven't given up much at all in the last month as far as goals. But Layla Hemp's a good little goalie back there, and she's been had a great sophomore season. Yeah, made Team USA against us when we played. I don't know if you remember that. She held them in it for the first period and a half. We outshot them.
To them, I thought.
We stopped 4 or 5 breakaways, stopped Brookie Nelson on the doorstep, which was probably the save of the year in girls high school hockey.
Right.
Against Miss Hockey Day Minnesota?
Yeah.
Man.
Right?
Yeah, she's phenomenal.
So I like Minnetonka in a very close game, like a 5-4, 6-5. I think there's gonna be lots. I think there will be some scoring tonight, which will be really good for the game.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. You gonna go? How will it
We're gonna go
sting
tonight.
too much?
No, it won't sting too much.
You gonna throw stuff on the ice?
No,
Beer cans?
not at all. So the coaches of some of those teams are pretty good friends of mine. So I've known Sammy since she was 12 years old, and I actually coached her a little bit in some AAA stuff as she was coming up. And then Tracy Casano, who's the Minnetonka coach, and I played together growing up for the Thoroughbreds. So I've known her for 30 years. So we'll see. So it's, I like to see 3 out of the 4 women in the semifinal women coaches. I think that's great for girls hockey, and I think that's really important. And so I'll be there to support the cause. And I think some of the girls are coming down, and we're going to go as a team.
Yeah,
so it'll be
good.
fun.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Let's talk a little more about some of our favorite sponsors, because we really do appreciate it here at Pull Tab Sports. And this would be Joe Mama's Salsa. Joe Mama's makes fantastic salsa, and I picked some up the other night. Bobby came over and we pounded some Joe Mama's. You know what flavor that was? It wasn't your favorite
It was not.
mango habanero.
It was still good.
It was the medium. It was a little bit spicy, and it was really good. And Joe Mama's is made again right here in your favorite state. Actually, it's made over in River Falls, Wisconsin.
It is?
Yep. And
They're from Woodbury and Cottage Grove.
well, yeah, you can't mess with the Kemper family. They'll mess you up. So Joe Mama's is awesome. And what Joe Mama's does is they are there to support your sports team. So if you're getting into the spring sports, whether it be, softball or baseball or lacrosse, you name it, sell Joe Mama's and they'll give you basically up to, I think you buy it for $6.50 and they give you $3 back for your team.
Pretty good
You don't
deal.
have to find freezer space like you do with pizzas. You can put it right on the shelf. You could buy dozens of them if you want
Dozens.
and support your team. So check them out. Check out their site so you can learn how to do the fundraising through Joe Mama's.
Right.
Thanks to Joe Mama's for sponsoring us.
Thanks, Joe Mamas. So,
Bobby got more hard-hitting questions. Go easy now.
well, going
You know,
easy. Well, tell us a little bit more about you. I mean, you grew up in Matamidi,
Yep.
and so grew up in Matamidi, and then you went, after that, you went and played college.
Yep. So grew up in Matamidi. We were like one of the original. So my parents are St. Paul people, Rice Streeters.
Ooh,
Bobby.
that's not
Hardy
east
or
side.
Johnson.
That's not east side.
Como.
Oh, Como. God,
Yeah,
don't
so
hope
they're-
they're not here right now. Bobby might
35,
start throwing
35
hands. Yeah.
So the Fulmer boys at Roseville are family friends, and so we joke pretty well with each other when we're playing in a suburban East matchup. We all seem to get out. But so my dad actually, my brother was born. They moved to Matamidi, 1977, and then I grew up there. Went to Catholic grade school, and then played high school soccer at Matamidi High School. And then we didn't have girls hockey, so I played for like a traveling AAA team called the Thoroughbreds, which was like the original Tier 1 team in Minnesota.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was a team that was around. Actually, like Winnie Broat was part of it when she wasn't playing boys hockey, and a lot of really good players. Molly Engstrom, who's the coach at Maine, was on my team. She was an Olympian. Tracy, who's the coach at Minnetonka, was on the team older than me. She's 2 years older than me. So yeah, fun team. We traveled all over the country playing hockey that was like AAA before AAA, but that's what you had to do to play. I didn't have the choice until I would have had the choice, I think, my sophomore year to play high school hockey. And by then I had already was on my path.
Is that the team when Winnie wasn't able to go to New Hampshire? She played.
Yeah.
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 She skipped a year after
Yep.
her senior year.
Yep. And played with us and played for the Thoroughbreds. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So she did pre and post. So she would play. So we had like 3 or 4 or the older team. So she was on the team with Tracy. So I was on the younger team. They're 3 or 4 years older than me. And we had like 3 or 4 players that would play high school hockey if we had a high school team, and then we'd start the season, play like 15 games. They go to their high school team, and then they come back for the national tournament. So kind of like what they do now for what Addie's doing. So I did that, and then wanted to keep playing hockey. Sacred Heart recruited me to go out there and play for them. I liked the idea of going away and playing out east until I actually had to go out east and play hockey. And
You're homesick or what?
Yeah. What do you
super
like
homesick.
about it?
Really?
Super homesick. I'm really close with my dad and my brother, and so especially my brother. And so when he was a junior at St. Thomas or a senior at St. Thomas when I was a freshman in college, and we talked every day, and I just wanted to come home. And my sister-in-law and him got married 2 years out of college, and so I don't know, I was really close with them and didn't like being away from them. And Gustavus wanted me to play for them right out of high school, but I wanted to try like the D1 thing, and I should just probably went there to begin with. But it was a great experience. And then went back and played at Gustavus at the beginning of their heyday. So I think they won like 8 or 9 MIAC championships in a row. Like starting my junior year or my senior year all the way through, and I was part of those teams. And so we won. The team my freshman group, so that I wasn't there, they took second in the country. My team took third my sophomore year, and then we finished like 5th my senior year.
Wow.
And so I played for the legendary Mike Carroll, who's still the coach there, and I have 2 kids from Stillwater that are going down to play for him, and he was recruiting him, and they're like, how old is he? And I was like, I had to do the math, and I was like, and then I had to do the math on like how long it's been since I've been playing, and I was like, don't worry about it, it's fine. So yeah, I played at Gustavus, had a great career, and then had to grow up and get a real job. Like I thought about coaching, but student loans and a house payment. And
Sure. What brought you up to North Dakota? Because you won a state championship coaching
I did
up there, right?
10 years ago yesterday.
That's incredible.
So again, makes you feel old because it feels like it was yesterday.
You won a state championship coaching in North Dakota?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yep. So yeah, it was Yeah, my husband, so I met my husband when I was, I think 25 or 26. He was in law school. He's a lawyer. And then recession happened. Jobs were scarce for lawyers that unless he wanted to go like clerk and do meaningless work, he got an opportunity to go up to Bismarck. And he asked, he's like, do you want to go to Bismarck and live? And I was like, not really, but okay. So we flew up there. I'll never forget this. He's like, it was record cold. It was negative 30 degrees, like not wind chill, like negative 30 degrees.
There's a lot of hills to take that wind chill away. Right?
Yeah, but it was.
No, there's
In
not.
Bismarck, there are.
Are there?
In Fargo,
Okay.
it's flat as, you mean, you could just roll home from Fargo from up there. But anyway, so we actually started coaching the MITE program. And we didn't know anyone. And so we're like, well, we should meet people. What do we know how to do? We know how to golf and we know how to coach hockey. So
Your husband coach too?
he was the MITE director.
No way.
And I'll never forget. It's such a small world, right?
Yeah.
So Lily Fetch from Eastridge
Yeah.
was on our first.
No
so they're from
way.
Bismarck.
Yeah.
So Lily's
She's a great kid.
Yeah,
Family's great.
Lily's older sister, Emma, was on our. So she's the middle of the three Fetch girls. She was on our first MITE group,
Well, that's fun.
and I'll never forget. Like we show up, and there's 70 people on the ice, and it's just the two of us, and we have no idea what we're doing. Because you don't know how to coach MITE hockey until you have your own kids in MITE hockey. But we were dumb enough to be like, yeah, how hard can it be? And then the other kid that was in our group was Madison Brown
Oh
from
my
Andover.
God. You couldn't have got them to come to Stillwater?
Well, I wasn't the Stillwater coach then, but no. So Fetches, when they moved home, when they were moving from Bismarck, though, they called us and said like, where should we move? And I did try to get them. I was having babies at that time. I'm like, move to Stillwater. It's a great girls hockey program. They moved to Eastridge, and I was like, Jason, man, like, what?
Done screwed up.
I was like, all right, well, good luck. No, kidding. But they're a great family. So good friends of ours, coached in Bismarck, and then I think 2 years into our time there, Bill Curl, whose daughter is Britta Curl,
Yeah.
who was the captain at Wisconsin,
Wow.
called me, and we became friends through the MITE program.
So more or less what you're saying is you're the greatest coach in the history of mites.
Yes, of Mites for sure.
I think she got the Stillwater job. They looked at her coaching.
Yeah,
Where's your resume?
Yeah, and Mites. Like, what did you do for Mites?
I was so awesome at Mites. They're like, actually, I think I was so bad at Mites. They're like, maybe she should coach people who can skate because she can't teach them how to skate for crap. And Bill got me to coach the high school girls team.
That's awesome.
So Bill called me and said the high school coach quit, and I was pregnant with Patrick.
Oh, jeez.
And he's like, any chance you'd take on the girls' high school job? And I was like, I don't know. Like, sure, why not? And I had nothing else. I mean, we didn't know anybody. We knew like 6 people.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if this is a way to meet people, like, well, sure. And so then I took over the team, and we won a state championship, and then took second the next year. And then I got pregnant with Nola, and Brad said, no more changing diapers and hockey rinks for me. Like, you can go back to it when the kids are done.
Yeah.
But it was coaching in North Dakota hockey makes you really appreciate, like, you're driving 100 miles at a minimum
Just
for
to
most of
play.
your games just to
Right.
play. So you have to really figure out how to do a lot more with a lot less.
Right.
And we had parents that were like, what do you need? Like, what do you want? And I said, I need somewhere to shoot. I need to teach these kids how to shoot. So one of my dads owned a bus company. So he had every school bus contract, I think, from like Bismarck to like Spokane, Washington or something. It was crazy, like the amount of school contracts he had. So he cleared out all of his buses from one of his sheds and built me a shooting area. So he brought in
That's
like
awesome.
a lot of money of synthetic ice. And we had this, and then he put 4 sharpshooters or 5 sharpshooters up. So each kid had their own like group of 4 had like a bay to shoot in.
My God.
And we
that's
called
like,
it the bus stop.
That's like,
Oh, that's great.
It's like a movie.
It
Like,
was.
all right, we're building it. We're doing it.
Yeah, and so it
Cut
was
to the
really funny.
montage
so
of
he
people.
called me and he was like, what do you need? And I was like, yeah, it'd be great to have somewhere to shoot. And he calls me like 3 weeks later and he's like, hey, why don't you stop up at the bus station or the bus garage and I'll show you what I did. And he literally like built this like 20,000 square foot thing.
Wow.
And the kids use their skates and synthetic ice and
So who do we know with the bus company?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, but it was the people up there were incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. And
North Dakota's hockey's come a long way.
It's
you
come a
get
long
into
way.
Fargo, and they have some really good teams.
yeah, it has. And they're They're really prideful of it. I will say North Dakota Sioux hockey fans are
The Fighting Hawks?
the Fighting Hawks. You're
I
correct.
don't know who these people are. Never heard
The
of
Fighting
them.
Hawks.
I don't know if you know, but Tommy was he was in the spirit squad for the Gophers.
Oh, really?
I don't know what that means.
Can't say what he was.
But,
He's a Gopher
Were
through.
you
rah,
Goldie?
rah, Ski-U-Ma.
Were
I was
you
just on the
Goldie?
Spirit Squad,
Oh.
so yeah, I helped out.
Well,
Yeah.
I will tell you that going to Fighting Hawks games also make you appreciate how much smarter
You can say
Minnesota hockey.
Sioux. I don't. That,
Yeah, Fighting
Give me
Sioux.
a break.
They're the Sioux. I'm sorry, but it was really fun. It was a really great time. Those people became like family. So yeah, the Curls. So Britta Curls, the captain of Wisconsin, was on my team, and her dad was really instrumental in me coaching up there, and so we got to know him really well, and we're still really good friends. And so she dang near made the Olympic team, and then when Brianna Decker broke her leg, she was flying to China, and then got COVID.
Yeah,
So then they
that
shipped
was
her.
kind of BS, right?
Yeah, I mean, they said she tested positive for COVID, but she had to quarantine for like 2 weeks, quarantine and then try to test.
What do you say,
Negative.
Bobby? Huh? What do you got?
I think there's
You
a
heard it here
conspiracy
first.
there.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that it was a very heartbreaking situation,
Yeah.
and she is certainly deserving to be an Olympian there. And what's really amazing about her is like, and this is kind of goes into the transfer stuff we talk about. Everyone on earth told her to leave Bismarck. They're like, this place, like, what are you doing playing hockey in Bismarck, North Dakota? Like, go to Shattuck, go to Naha, go down and play in Minneapolis. Like, go do something, but don't do this. And she's like, if I'm not good enough to stay here and play, then I'm not good enough.
That's cool.
That's incredible because she had a career. She
Right.
had an amazing career.
Right. And one of the things I loved, and I can't remember, I think it was one of the BC coaches told her the thing we love about you the most is that you haven't been playing thousands of hours of hockey.
Your ceiling is significantly higher.
Your ceiling's way higher because she was like, and she was that kid that like, so she was the kicker on the boys football team up there.
No way.
She was Kathy Ireland.
Yeah, right. Well, no, but yeah, I mean, but she was like kicking soccer balls and screwing her out on the turf, and they're like, "Can you be the kicker?" And she literally was the kicker on the football team, and then. Just like, I'm bored, I'm gonna go play golf, and makes it on the golf team. Like, she's just one of those natural athletes, all-state soccer player. But one of the things in girls that I agreed with this is a lot of her success came because she was one of 4 kids. She's the second oldest of 4 kids, and being home with her family mattered. Mm-hmm. And she realized that being a successful athlete was also contributed because her mom and dad were able to go to her games.
Yeah.
And she was able
good
to have a
support staff.
Yeah, and so
It's tough when you hear stories about kids like in Canada, especially, where they leave home at 16, 15 years old. And I don't raise kids to just say, all right, somebody else raise them.
well, right.
And I know it might be the best for their dream, but at the same time, what about them as a human being? Somebody else has taken over.
Well, right. And like in girl sports, the ceiling maybe is the Olympics for 18 kids. And the reality is these girls that are playing in the Olympics now play on the team for like 10 years.
Right.
So there's like 2 spots every 5 years.
That's got to change.
I hope that they, I think this big group has been a big group for a long time, and you start seeing some turnover, but then those girls will just be on the team for 5 or 6 years.
I know.
So my point is that like, there isn't anything past this really. To go to college would be great, and that's a really exciting thing. But if you're not in it for friendships and making friends and building roots and having somewhere to go home to, like, you're missing it.
Right.
You want to pick a winner of the tourney?
Sure. Andover.
There you go.
That's,
There you go. We'll rewind the tape.
I think Andover's D. I think the way they're kind of a D first team, and I think it's gonna be a great game. Whoever wins the second semifinal, will give them a really tough test. Gentry already beat Andover this year. Minnetonka and Andover have split.
they're the 4 best teams.
They are the 4 best teams,
Yeah.
and so so to your question, like when you asked me, like, well, does it hurt? No, they were better.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would hurt more if you were better and you lost
Yeah.
than if you lost to a team that. We would have had to have played a perfect game. And we darn near did it. For 34 minutes, we played perfect.
Yeah, you did. You really did.
And but a better team finds that finds that seam where you're not
lose
perfect.
Somebody at some point, and a mistake will happen,
and a mistake happens, and they capitalize, and they have the players to do it. So I think whoever. I also think that second semifinal game will spend a lot of time beating each other up tonight, and I mean, it's going to be a really punishing hockey game, and it's going to be back and forth. And I think to turn around the next night, where I think the Andover Edina game will be more of a. It'll be more of a slower played game, not as punishing. It'll be less. It'll just be more tactical, I guess is probably the better word.
Yeah.
Than physical and emotional.
Yep. Let me ask you. So I'll set you up here. Maybe I'll throw you a softball. What was your favorite part of your team this year and playing? I remember one game in particular that I watched on TV. That was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, Hockey Day was great. Hockey Day was super fun. Yeah. And I will say this, like, I didn't even need to play in the game. The game was one thing. The practice, the morning before, where you get just your kids and you walk through the entrance and you go out and you're out there with your team and all the Bally's people are like watching you practice. It was really special.
Yeah.
And it was fun, and we were all kind of loose and giving each other a hard time, and it was kind of before the cameras were rolling and we could just be ourselves. And that I got home that day and I was like, I'm done. I don't even need to go tomorrow. It was so cool. It was so cool. And it was just fun to be there with the kids. And we have a group with a lot of personality. So doing stuff like that is really fun. Like I've coached some teams where they're just far too serious about what they're doing, that they can't let loose in a moment like that. And I mean, the clip was played quite a bit when the kids were dancing.
Yeah.
And so the backstory on that was the band was out on the ice and they screwed up so we were supposed to warm up for 10 minutes. We got to warm up for like 3 minutes and Bally's like, get them off the ice. We got to get going. So we've come off the ice and then we come back on and they're like, actually, you still have 10 minutes. You're like, you mean we could have warmed up like we were supposed to warm up and it's negative 10 degrees out, but okay, no problem. Well, so White Bear starts skating around, but the band isn't where, and I said this, I looked at my assistant coaches, I said, if you think I'm going to let Addie take out the band, lose an edge or, just, we were joking about it, but I was like.
Warm up fast.
Yeah, well, so we didn't skate around, and so then.
She took the band out.
Well, I just.
Like the Cal Stanford game.
For those listening that maybe don't know, Bobby's daughter, Addie, plays for Stillwater.
Plays for me, and she's, her nickname is Addie Fun. She gives us she's a lot of fun to coach. And so anyway, so then the kids start dancing. And they're like, well, we can't go skate like White Bear skating, so we'll start dancing to it was some song, I don't even remember what the song was, but then the clip, if you look at any Hockey Day clip, is of the kids dancing.
Yep.
And that was because we were afraid to take out the band. And I think we would have. Like, I mean, we're not averse to losing an edge a time or two. So
would she get a penalty for that?
I don't know. Probably. So that was a highlight. I would also say, there's a couple highlights just in the fact that I think the kids did a good job this year of becoming a team. And I think it just comes with maturity, where they were a kind of an up and coming team, freshman and sophomore year. And I often say, I think the worst thing that ever happened to our group is they made state during COVID year. And it was just a false set of like, thinking you were maybe better than you are, and knocking off Hill Murray. And then last year, losing in this section semifinal, not that you'd want to take that away from them, but I think it put a target on that group's back at a really young age. And so I think with that came just a lot of stress for a young group of kids. And this year they seemed to really embrace the target that they had most of the time and weren't so worried about points and status and making teams. And I think they also, when you have 4 kids committed to Division I school, you have to realize that this is the fun part of hockey.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you're going to go have to try out for USA Hockey Junk, and you're going to have to go and
prove yourself over and over again.
And you're when you go to that stuff, you have to be an individual.
Yeah.
You have to jump off the page. Even to make some of these elite league things, like, you have to kind of play a different way.
Right.
And those games are geared towards 2 or 3 game series, or when they go down to Dallas, it's a 5-game tournament. So your mentality is much different than a high school season. Our girls needed to realize that this is like the fun part of hockey. Playing with your friends
Yeah.
is supposed to be fun. And if it's not fun, like I'm not doing my job or they're not doing their job or the parents aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I was pretty proud of the kids that they seem to embrace that this is fun again.
Yeah.
And my style is I want them to be who they are. So
It's good. Hey, that was Phil Jackson, right? That was
Yeah.
Phil Jackson's whole thing is like, I'm not going to suppress individuals. I'm going to pull that out of them. And Rodman, you be Rodman, and MJ, you be MJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, so my whole thing, like, and I thought my coach at Gustavus did a pretty good job of this. Like he didn't really want us to all be the same. He wanted me to be me, and he wanted my roommate to be my roommate. And so I never had to be like and in business, so I work in a medical device space. My pet peeve is when someone says, well, that person needs to go rebrand themselves. You know, like,
Because that's not going to happen.
Well,
People aren't
and
gonna
it's
just
insulting.
Change. Yes, absolutely.
it's like, well, they're not good enough for where they were or whatever. And so or people create a narrative about someone that they have no idea. And then that becomes the truth. And people do it far too much about kids.
yeah, with kids.
They think they know what's going on in my locker room and they think they know my kids. And I'm like, you have like no idea. You see them for 30 seconds a day in a clip on TV, or you heard about something from someone. You have like no clue. So I want my kids to be individuals and I want them to be who they are. And it's my job, or it's a coach's job, to get them to be together as a team.
Right.
But I don't want 15 Josie St. Martins, and I don't want 15 Addie Finns. I want one Josie. I want one Addie. I want one Lily Timmons. And I want them to be who they are
Yeah.
as people.
Bobby, do you wish you had 15 Addy Fins?
I don't know how I wouldn't be alive probably. Oh my God.
We'd have a lot of fun,
That
though.
would be, I don't know about that.
15 Addies and
maybe
15
about 10
Connors?
years. Right now, I don't need it.
15 Connors, 15 Addies.
Jesus.
Look out. I'm
No.
moving out of the neighborhood if that
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
No, I think one is probably
Yeah, that's
enough for.
suffice, right?
But she, you want kids like Addie, or like a lot of the kids that I have that are very loyal to their coach, in the sense that like they trust and they try to do what you asked, and when they screw up, they're okay with a little bit of course correction.
Yeah. Perfect.
Sometimes tough love, sometimes not. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes we mess with them.
You got to have it, right? Makes a team. But hey, we are also sponsored by Duke Cannon. And if you want the serious flow, get Duke Cannon. Don't be a JV hockey player. You got 2 weeks until the big hockey hair day. So get Duke Cannon. Bought Target and DukeCannon.com. You can get a discount if you put in pull tab 10. So get Duke Cannon.
Is that still a thing? They still doing the all hockey hair thing?
They are doing it.
They are doing it.
Kinger's the man.
Speaking of, like,
Full Tap
I think
Sports.
I would love to see the team that just showed up with like a buzz cut again.
Yeah. It's like, hey, John King, this is for you.
Buzz
Like
cut
this.
and dyed yellow. Remember
No,
that?
just
yeah.
nothing. Like, we're
Bleached.
just gonna be normal high schoolers. Like,
Yeah.
what would they
That
do?
doesn't happen. I think half the
Right.
kids, the teams that think they're going to state, they already start growing out their hair.
Oh,
Like, beginning of the
100%.
season, they're like,
Months ago,
it's gonna
yeah.
be great.
100%. I don't even think they care about playing in the tournament. They just
Right.
want to make the all hockey hair
They come with
team.
the kid last year who like did like an advertisement for his lawn cutting service.
Yes, it was Pioneer Landscape.
Pioneer Landscape.
That was
it a Hill kid?
Yoakum's kid.
It was?
Yeah, it was his buddy. Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Hey, that's.
Good advertising.
But yeah, I mean, you do watch it now, and you're like, I just want to see the kid with like a normal haircut, and like, what would they do with that? Would
Yeah,
they?
not going to say anything.
Well, yeah, you won't make
He's
the
not
team.
making the squad.
Yeah, but yeah, it is really funny. I mean, it's something taking. The girls can't quite.
Can't do it. What do they do?
Well, yeah, I mean, nothing that I'd want them to do.
Right.
put it
Yeah,
that
right.
way.
They'd have to like, yeah.
But
You know,
Any-
seems career limiting
yeah,
in the
right.
future.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was
Pleasure
nice
having you.
talking to you. It was great.
And thanks for Wild Bills and Jess for the support and all the hospitality today.
Wild Bills is great. Right
Wild-
across from the X.
Right
Come on
across.
down.
Get over here. Fill this place up. We'll be back here in a couple weeks too. So come on out and be a part of the cast here. But we can be heard on Spotify, YouTube, and all major platforms for your podcast. Please like and subscribe.
Follow us on Instagram.
Instagram.
Follow us on the TikTok.
Follow us all. TikTok, Instagram, everything.
You got it.
But thank you for listening. And remember, every day, wake up. Don't do the wrong thing. Do the right things. Be a good person. Help people. Don't hurt people. And most of all, don't be a dick.
Yes,